All right, we're going to start this morning with a presentation while we wait to make sure we have a quorum. But before that, a couple quick announcements. Rick is under the weather, but he's going to join us remotely for his report. Condolences to First Selectman Moan on the passing of your mother.
Thank you. Thank you, Pete.
And congratulations to Mayor Kilduff and his wife, who welcomed the new baby boy.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Third.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Latin congratulations.
And at this time,
My
we
condolences.
have representatives from Frontier here, live on Zoom.
Yes, we do.
Okay, well, take it away, Fronteir Communications.
So you're on mute if you're talking.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you. Occupational hazard, right?
Who hasn't
Good
done that
morning,
before?
everybody, and thank you for inviting us into your meeting this morning. We're happy to be here and kind of bring you folks up to date with all the work that we've been doing in your communities, and certainly have some information to share with you and open us up for some questions and anything we can do to help you. So today, I just want to, Bella, next, who's got the slide presentation? Who's driving?
So I'm
Next
driver's
slide.
live on because side.
All right, next slide, please. I just want to introduce the team that we have here today. My name is Joe Ferriola. I'm Director of Operations for Connecticut East. We have Dave St. Martin, who is our Construction and Engineering Manager for the state of Connecticut, who is probably a very important person to all of you folks with the fiber to the home build that we're doing. And we have Steve Crotty, who is the Director of Connecticut West, who represents is your primary contact for constituent issues and the installation and repair issues and services that we provide for you folks locally. Steve is based in Shelton, and will be your line of contact for that as well. So Steve Crotty as well. So, and we'll go around and say hello to you guys shortly. We have a few things we wanted to cover with you guys today. One is an update as to what our build situation looks like here currently in Connecticut, and specifically in the areas that you all represent. We want to talk about our single family home initiatives, and more importantly now, as we've completed a lot of the build, our ability and desire to access multiple family units through MDUs, whether they be greenfield or brownfield, and your ability to help us partner and get to those, so this way here we can maximize the opportunity for your residents to get to the fiber build that we're doing. And then generally, anything from a municipal partnership standpoint, where we can help you with projects that you folks may have on the books, or any issues you may currently have as it relates to polls. And that's a sore subject, and it's been a sore subject. We've been pretty aggressive in cleaning that up. But if there are some areas that we need some help on, or you guys need some help on, certainly this team here is committed to listening to you guys and getting it done. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dave. And Dave, have at it.
Good morning. So again, thanks for taking time out of a Friday to listen to us come and talk to you about what we've done so far and what we're looking to do going forward. So I don't know if you want to move up. This is just our contact information. So as we leave this call today, the slide deck is available to all of you. So feel free to use our names, numbers, and email addresses and reach out to us whenever you have a concern. So again, St. Martin, Director of Construction and Engineering. I've got the whole state of Connecticut. So basically, the kind of the division of labor here is that if you look outside and you see anything, poles, cables, cabinets, terminals, it's my responsibility for designing that, building it, placing it, and ultimately removing it. If you're talking about anything that's inside a customer premise, service provisioning, that would be, again, Steve for your part of the world, and then Joe for the other half of the state. Slide. So, just want to level set with everybody with where Frontier is right now. As some of you may be aware, others maybe not so much. We came out of bankruptcy in 2021 with a new leadership team and a new vision and some 4 simple goals. One, to build fiber Two, to sell fiber and increase our fiber footprint and become a fiber company. Obviously, do that in a financially responsible manner, and then to improve our customer service. Right, that's our goal. And so far, we've hit it out of the park on most of those, and we're proceeding to continue our build. So, for the build piece of this, the plan we came up with was called Building Gigabit America, where our initiative was to basically pass 10 million customer locations by the end of 2025. Connecticut was number one front and center of that, and we've been kind of the primary state for the first few years of this build. And in fact, in Connecticut, we've passed over 1 million homes in Connecticut alone. And actually, the last quarter, we passed 381,000 homes in the third quarter of 2024. And to kind of match that, we've got the highest amount of net adds in the business, really. Next slide. So what are some of the benefits of this fiber build that we're doing? Obviously, blazing fast speeds is probably number one on the list. And the fact that it's a symmetrical service is probably what our primary distinguishment is between us and cable TV and other offerings. So what that means is the download speed that you get, that's the kind of the advertised speed, is similar and equal on the upload side. So if you're buying a 7 gigabit service, you're going to get 7 gigabits download and 7 gigabits upload. And that's typically lacking on the cable side, as their upload speeds are generally 10 to 20% of the advertised download speeds. And that's really critical for anybody that's doing, data-centric, data-heavy applications, or like this call today, team meetings, Zoom meetings. Video is very, very data intensive. So if you're seeing pixelization or, the circle of death on your screen, more often than not, that's probably due to a slower upload speed. So our product doesn't have that. It's symmetrical. So you're going to get very, very robust speeds in both directions. And because this is a 100% passive optical network, the performance is going to be great. There's no susceptible issues with water, with power, with electricity. And in fact, we've all experienced, full town power outages during some of the bigger storms we've had. This network kind of cares for that, in that the only electronics on this network are at both ends of it. So at our central offices, all of our central offices are backup power. And generally, when there's a storm, we'll generally bring backup generators to back up the backup power. And again, since most people in Connecticut have experienced some level of damage due to power outages, a lot of folks have backup generators at their house. So in the event of a storm, if you've got your backup generator running, ours is always running as well. So the service will continue to run even if there's no commercial power anywhere. That's assuming, obviously, that the fiber has not been cut. The other benefit of this network is there's really no limits whatsoever to what fiber optics can serve. The only limitations really are the cost and the electronics on either end. So as more and more companies promote and push fiber-based service, the prices of that come down, the technology improves, and that's kind of what's got us to where we are. Initially, when we started rolling out this build, our maximum speed just 3 years ago was 1 gigabit. And fast forward to now, just past Labor Day, we upped our maximum speed to 7 gigabits. And that's a premier product with all the bells and whistles that come with it. And we're currently in the lab testing 25 gigabits as an offering. So the good news is we won't have to rebuild when these newer speeds come in. The only thing that may need to occur is you may need to change out the electronics on either end. So that's kind of what makes it future-proof from that regard. We don't have to go and rebuild again. All right, next slide. So the values for our customers in the community are really self-explanatory. Higher quality of life, right? Everybody, every business, every resident all needs bandwidth now. It's probably number 3 of requirements, right behind electricity and running water. Students need it for learning. People work from home. On the healthcare side, there's ever increasing amounts of video chats with doctors. So all of that is requiring more and more bandwidth, and our network provides that. And on the economic side, anybody that's got a rental property that's looking to occupy at a higher rate, if their units are coming equipped with a high-speed broadband connection, they're generally going to occupy and sell at a higher rate than those that don't have it. And so that relates to, on the community side, for all you folks, as these properties become more fully occupied, those property owners have a higher tendency to be able to pay their property taxes. And that is certainly required for all the municipalities to function and do all the services that they need to for their residents. Next slide. Joe, you want to cover this?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we've been hearing since we started this, and we actually started our fiber build back in 2015 and 16, Dave, right? Where we started rolling out pockets. And, we listened to the municipal leaders. And one of the things that was important to everybody was closing that digital divide and making sure that we brought reliable, high-speed internet, affordable high-speed internet to areas that have been traditionally underserved. So when we looked at this build and we started from the inside out. So we have roughly 169 towns in the state of Connecticut. We have a number of our operating buildings and network operation centers throughout the state of Connecticut. We started from the center of our towns out. So the fiber comes from our buildings out through the towns and municipalities out to the outskirts. But the one thing we made sure we did was make sure that the fiber goes by those areas that had been traditionally bypassed. And AT&T built out UVerse. They built out on a business model that was different from what we did. We're looking at it from a standpoint that every home is important, every customer is important, and our goal is to get to as many folks as we possibly can. But we made sure that we got to the areas that needed to be served, and we'll continue to try to do that and work with you folks if we've missed pockets. But I think we've done a fairly good job of that. The other piece of that was to provide some pricing that was consistent and more affordable and at reach. So our base offering is a 200 meg symmetrical service up and down for $29.99 a month. And it goes all the way up from 200 meg all the way up to 7 gig, like David mentioned, and higher. So for those techno geeks that are doing all kinds of high end stuff, and just like the idea of making sure that they have the highest and the fastest, we have a premium product with the $299 on the 7 gig, which comes with all kinds of bells and whistles, and we're sure to make sure that they'll have all the streaming they can do. More than likely, they don't have equipment that even supports it, but we are continuing to provide it. So from top to bottom, it's important that we're reachable, that we can connect, and that we provide an affordable opportunity for folks to connect. And I think we've kind of touched on all those bases. And based on the response from the state of Connecticut and from other municipal leaders, and just from our clients that are continuing to let us in the doors and get to our customers, it's going well. Might be a good place to pause there for a second, Dave, and maybe take some questions.
Sure, absolutely. And I'll be covering in the next slide really the crux of where you guys are interested, and that is the build in your particular area and going forward. But yeah, sure. Any questions so far?
All right.
Okay.
Dave, keep going.
Well
Yep,
done.
next.
Question from.
Oh, I'm sorry. Somebody have something?
Bob Chatfield from Prospect. When your contractors are going around town putting this cable up, they left loops in the middle of a string or on a pole, and they're falling down. So if one of you wants to take a pencil at the intersection of Chatfield Road and Tress in Prospect, TRESS, there's a whole block of that cable just fell out on the ground. I believe it's here. The other thing is, when would you start taking care of your buildings in the local towns? They only seem to get mowed once every other couple of weeks. The one in Prospect has mold on the roof, mold on the side, and it doesn't seem to be taken care of like it was 30 or 40 years ago.
So I can address those questions. So certainly that first issue with the fiber coils lies with me and my team. I will get that over to our construction manager to make sure that those are cared for. I think a lot of that may have been due to the fact that we did take a pause in our build to reassess the capital spend. And as we did that, some of those projects got stopped for a short time, but we will be picking them up. But in the meantime, the expectation was that all of those coils were kind of cleaned up and made safe. So I'll definitely get a crew over there to take a look at that one. As it relates to buildings, that we have a corporate real estate department, I will get that information over to them so they can care for and address some of the questions you raised, mainly the roof and the mowing. Obviously, the mowing will probably not be an issue until next spring, but certainly we can address that as well.
I have another subject, but I think the first selectman of Middlebury might want to discuss that because he brought it up a few weeks ago. Double poles.
Oh,
Okay.
we're trying to get that resolved, but you're talking about the orphan poles, where
Sure.
Eversource or SNET, they kind of, they put up a new pole and then it takes forever. We have places where we have 2 and 3 and 4 in one place. But that's really, I want to get back to what we're discussing here today. And we were, I think, one of your first communities that really went all out for this fiber. And I want to say you've been just absolutely wonderful to work with. There were some startup issues, as there goes with everything. The only issue, your construction people, they've done a great job. I don't know exactly percentage wise. All of our town facilities, all of our radio communications, everything are all fiber optic now. But and the service has been absolutely great. The product is even better than the service. We've had little or no issues with anything. I know in my own home, I switched over. I not only got 100% better service, I saved about 100% of the cost that I was paying for it all. So I want to say, keep up the good work and keep going. I know we have some outlier areas that you're working on. So we'll, whatever you need, we'll work with you.
Yeah, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate the feedback, and it's good to hear that. But for your first question regarding double poles, that's also in my team as well, and we've made a conscious effort to whittle down that quantity. There's a really intricate process to getting those transferred, and it involves all the attachers. But when we first came out of bankruptcy, we were sitting with a really high number of double poles across the state, and we've made a conscious effort to try and whittle that number down. And I think at last glance, we were under a couple thousand at the end of October statewide. Now, the problem is, double poles are created every day. So every time we set a new pole, it creates a double pole. And every time somebody hits a car, every time a car hits a pole, that also creates a double pole. So we recognize that. And so I'll make the offer to anyone on this call. Obviously, there's time frames where the shifting of the facilities from old to new starts at the top. So power goes first, and then any, municipality attachment, and then any cable TV companies, and then any third party attachers, and then finally Frontier are the ones to shift. But so those all take time. But if there's any double poles that are causing you some pain, whether that's aesthetics or some kind of safety concern, I would ask you to strictly, directly reach out to me, and I'll see where those poles sit in the process, and we'll see if we can't expedite getting those transferred and removed for you. All right. So in the interest of time, can we move on unless there's more questions or?
Move on.
Okay, cool. Next slide, please. All right. So, as we started before, we've passed well over 1 million homes in Connecticut. And to level set, that's part of the single family unit SFU build. And the definition of that really is any property that has 4 or less residences in the same building. Anything is considered single family. Anything with 5 or more is considered multi-dwelling. And we're managing those, and we'll talk about those in a minute. But this build and the numbers we've been talking about so far are rooted strictly on that single family build. So as it relates to your region, the Naugatuck Valley, we've built to approximately 146,000 customer locations. And that's not year to date, that's project to date. So apologize there. And so that's pretty well covered. You know, as it relates to the remainder of 2024 into 2025, we've got on the books the plans for another approximately 8,100 locations in your region alone. So those are projects that are designed, they're with our construction crews. Some of it will be started and worked this fall. The rest of it will be into 2025. And, you know, so far to date, we've spent tens and tens of millions of capital in the communities. And we're seeing the benefits of that with our service offerings and happy customers like we're just stated. So I appreciate that. The next phase of our journey, though, to get to closer to 100%, which by all acknowledgement, I don't know that we'll ever get to 100%, but we want to try and get as close to it as we can. Our next foray is really into the multi-dwelling units, and those are being managed separately. And the reason for that is, you know, they take longer to build. There's a lot more layers of intricacies of you know, trying to get the whole thing built. You know, it involves property owners, it involves homeowner associations and negotiations and discussions and meetings. So that takes typically a little longer to get to. And then some of these apartment buildings, you know, we need to have a good fiber connection from each unit back to our phone room to ensure the robust speeds that we've been talking about here today. So in order to do that, a lot of times we'll have to place a fiber drop to every unit, and that takes some effort and some time to get to every unit. So we're managing that. We've got a brand new sales team that's responsible for reaching out to multi-dwelling unit owners. I think you could probably switch slides now if you'd like. So their responsibility is to reach out to property owners of MDUs, secure permissions. Basically, we call it a premise access license agreement. It's really nothing more than a permission slip to allow Frontier to come in, scope out what would be needed to get fiber to every unit in that complex. Again, whether it's a garden style condo development or whether it's a high rise, right? So we will go in with our engineer, with our inside wire vendor, do an analysis of what's needed. We'll develop a price for that. And if it meets our financial threshold, we'll go back and present that to the property owner as to here's what we're looking to do. And if you're okay with that as an owner, we will then continue and start to finish the design and do the construction. And in, you know, vast majority of the cases, we've been able to do those without any financial, you know, cooperation and from the property owners. We're basically funding those builds almost entirely. So, you know, we're looking to expand on that, and we're hoping we can do more of those. And kind of one of the reasons we wanted to talk to the towns today is probably one of the biggest MDU entities in the state of Connecticut are the local town housing authorities. Now, a lot of times they're managed by the town government. In other locations, they're, you know, separate housing authority entities that coexist with the town but are kind of separate. So, you know, we're kind of reaching out today to say, if you've got any of these properties in your towns and are interested in talking with us, certainly reach out to me and we can get that process started, right? Like I described. And, you know, it's a few month process, but, you know, we're willing to do it. And, you know, there's various ways that we can do it. And, you know, one of the ways that we do it with private entities is with marketing agreements where there can be, you know, financial rewards for the owners. But we also understand that as municipalities, you're probably already getting some federal and some state subsidies for those properties. So you might not be able to enter those kinds of agreements, but that's okay with us. We're still willing to come in there and fund these ourselves. Because again, it's all about getting the best service for all of your residents that we can. And for a Frontier, selfishly, expanding our footprint and growing our revenue base. So that's kind of the MDU build that we're looking to do. The next slide kind of shows the process a little deeper, and you'll have that on your in your possession after this call. But it's essentially what I just described, right? We'll go out, we'll scope it, we'll price it, we'll bring it back to the owner, and if they're okay with the plan that we're proposing, we'll proceed. And that would be the same thing, whether it's a high-rise apartment, a low-rise, or a garden style. The means to get to every unit might be a little different. But we'll talk through it and make sure that the owners or the homeowners association is 100% comfortable with our proposal before we ever, drill one hole or dig a little hole in the ground on the property. So that's essentially the bill that we wanted to cover. I don't know, Joe or Steve, is there anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just want to give Steve an opportunity to say hello and introduce himself because, again, folks, we're here. We live here. Steve lives in Shelton. I live in Seymour. Dave lives up in the northeast corner somewhere, but he claims to be a Connecticut resident. He's in the stick somewhere. But, we're invested here. We're invested here. We're, like I said, we're residents here and friends and neighbors. So, this is personal to us, and we want to make sure you guys know that we're committed and connected. Steve, you want to say a few words?
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name's Steve Crotty. I'm Director of Operations for the western half of Connecticut. And as David mentioned, I manage installation and repair. And thank you for inviting us this morning. Appreciate it.
So I guess, are there any other questions for us while we're here? I guess the only other plug I'll give is I didn't talk to it, but, as new developments come into your town, we call them greenfields, right? If you could reach out to us with the information on those, we would really love to get with those developers during construction so we can make their lives and our lives a lot easier, because there's ways we can provision fiber to each unit while the walls are still open, and it makes for a better product for everyone. And so we would love to talk to those developers and get them on board up front. So
Not
as you find
to
those,
mention increasing the value of the building and, in the property, and hopefully some additional taxes to you guys.
so
All right,
any go ahead, I'm sorry.
Steve. Well, thank you, gentlemen, and we know how to reach out to you, and I know I have a few entities that are gonna contact you, so we'll be in touch.
Again, thank you guys for inviting us in today. Thank you, Bella, for working from our team to kind of put this all together, and happy to be here for you guys whenever you need us.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good weekend.
See you later.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna call the meeting to order, and we'll have first Selectman Temple lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call.
City of Ansonia, Mayor Dave Cassetti. Be online? Yes. Okay, Town of Beacon Falls, First Selectman Smith. Not here. First Selectman Sorty from Bethlehem said he would not be attending today. Mayor Cadiano, Bristol.
Here.
Andrew Martelli, alternate Cheshire.
Here.
Joe DiMartino, Mayor of City of Derby. Not here. First Selectman St. John Middlebury.
Here.
Mayor Hess Naugatuck.
Here.
First Selectman Temple Oxford.
Here.
Mayor Kilduff Plymouth.
Here.
Mayor Chatfield Prospect.
Here.
First Selectwoman Dragonis Seymour. Be online? No. Mayor Loretti Shelton. Not here. First Selectman Manville indicated he would not be attending today. First Selectman Moan Thomaston.
Here.
Mayor Pernaruski Waterbury.
Here.
Town Manager Ramo Watertown, I believe, is online.
Good morning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mayor Dunn Wolka indicated he would not be here today. And First Selectwoman Perkinson Woodbury? No? Okay. You do have a poll.
You have a quorum?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Good. Oh, Rick, yes.
yeah, Mayor Loretti indicated that he wouldn't be here either or may come in late. There's a meeting with Commissioner Boughton regarding the Connecticut Build Program. We also have staff there today, so I think that's why we're missing some people. But you do have a quorum, Trish is correct, of both bodies, of both the MPO and the COG.
All right, thank you, Rick. So let's proceed to public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address us today? All right, one more call for public comment. All right, hearing none, we will go to our CNVMPO meeting. Item 1, 2025 to 28 TIP amendment. Kevin, you're gonna take us through this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. So one tip amendment for us today, this is a wildlife crossings pilot program. This is a grant from my Federal Highway Administration to make available a grant to study wildlife crossings around across the state of Connecticut. So the funding information is included in the packet, and I'll take any questions.
All right, any questions?
Move to accept Prospect.
Second, Edmond Thomaston.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 2, adoption of our meeting schedule.
So move Prospect.
Second, Thomaston.
Oh, hold on. Well, it's listed below, so you want to adopt it here or in the next item?
So this is the CNVMPO,
Yep,
Yes.
and then there will be the COG meeting. We put them separately in anticipation of the bylaws.
There,
okay, so we're gonna
Right now,
have
they're
two
proposed to be the
votes,
same.
Right
schedule.
now,
one of each
Yeah.
body.
right.
All right, so,
and Good Friday is April 18th. So that's why I put those little calendars in there for you. So you may want to cancel that month and just hold a special meeting if necessary.
do we want to adopt the calendar or modify what we're gonna adopt?
You might want to modify because April 18th is Good Friday, and that would have been the normal.
I'm working on today, so,
I'm with you on that, Pete.
If you cancel-
Yeah, our current recommendation would be to cancel April, and then if we need to hold a special meeting for any reason, we can do so. Yeah, we can get that scheduled when we get
I'll
closer.
amend my motion to that.
all right, we have a second to the amendment? Second. All right, so we will now vote on the amended CNV MPO calendar. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, NVCOG administrative items, minutes for approval.
So move Prospect. We'll move this along.
Second, Ed Thomaston.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstention.
Abstention from Oxford. Motion carries. All right, so we're now going to adopt the other body's calendar. Is that correct? Any changes on that, or we do it as is? Same?
4/18 is Good Friday. So you may want to cancel that one and hold a special meeting if needed.
Mr. Chairman, if I can, just, you're adopting a meeting schedule for the year to file with the Secretary of State. There is no April meeting scheduled on this recommendation, so you're just adopting the recommendation. If you don't want an April meeting, you're adopting the recommendation for 10 meetings next year. No meeting in April, no meeting in August.
No need to amend the motion, is what you're saying.
Correct.
Would we have a motion?
Yes, move to adopt the 2025 schedule for the Valley COG as presented.
All right, motion from Plymouth.
Second, Thomaston.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now, are we also gonna adopt the holiday schedule?
So moved.
Motion to adopt the NVCOG holiday schedule. Do we have a second?
Second, Bristol.
Second from Bristol. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, all three passed.
Administrative matter.
Okay, financial report, Michael.
Thank you. So this is the financial report for the period ending September 30th, 2024, and went out in your agenda package last week. So we're 3 months or 25% of the fiscal year. Current debt position is just over 200,000, with expecting it to converge to zero towards a balanced budget as the year progresses. Just under 1.3 million cash reserves. And our budget to actual and expenses is running at 13%, so about half of where we're at currently. Outside of that, no unexpected funding cuts. RC was fully funded in October. And, part of the reason for the net position being increased is because dues are front loaded, which is overstated at the beginning of the year.
Okay, any questions for Michael?
So move Prospect.
Or a motion to
Second.
adopt? Second from Thomaston. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Rick, Director's report. from
Thank you,
Zoom.
Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize to all of you for not being with you today. And we'll go through this pretty quickly. So, as most of you know, we're scheduled for a special meeting of this body of the NVCOG MPO board next Wednesday. And that's a hybrid meeting, so everybody could be online for that. With the exception that following that meeting will be an executive board meeting with a different agenda. And executive board meetings are not hybrid, they're only in person. So I'll just go through quickly the bylaw issue, which will be the only subject on the first meeting. So basically, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. We'll talk about it next week, but I wanted to get a heads up to you and then maybe get a little bit of feedback going into that. So the short detail here and some of the discussions that have taken place before, we have 2 MPOs currently. We have the Central Naugatuck Valley MPO, which is this body minus 4 of the members. And then we have the Greater Bridgeport Valley MPO, which includes those 4 members. There have been questions about expenditures, dues raised at some of these meetings. I just want to be really clear. The money that we get in dues from the towns in the Central Naugatuck Valley MPO is used to match federal transportation funds in the Central Naugatuck Valley MPO area. And the money we get from the towns, the dues we get from the towns in the Greater Bridgeport Valley MPO, we use that money to match the transportation dollars in the Greater Bridgeport Valley MPO region. So I just wanted to clarify that because I've been questioned about it a couple of times since it had been raised. So because of a couple of actions, one, we don't believe that there's going to be a consolidation along COG boundaries for the MPOs. We've waited now going on 10 years. That's the reason we decided to present to you the bylaws that we presented. So the options we're going to take up next week are keep the existing bylaw proposal, and that proposal does not allow the 4 valley towns the lower valley towns to be chair of the NVCOG. The second option is to keep that draft, but elect 2 boards. So we'll amend the draft in a small way. We'll elect 2 separate boards, and each month we would hold 2 separate meetings. So one would be just as we did today, except we'll convene the MPO meeting. After those actions take place, we would adjourn the MPO meeting, and then we would convene the COG meeting. It would be pretty seamless, I think, and probably is the best option. The third option is to keep status quo. We would add language recognizing the MPO formally and add that section for MPO rules. And then we would address it as we go forward. We've tried to get some information about how the Federal Highway Administration views or whether they have rules regarding non-member officers of MPOs. Nobody can get us any feedback. They can't find an organization where non-members chair the Metropolitan Planning Organization. Just one of the other options, and I'm certainly not recommending this, but just FYI, in some cases, the way it's done is the executive director or what's called the secretary in the MPO chairs the meeting, just runs the meeting, but the officers are elected separately. I'm not recommending that. I just want you to know, New Haven, for instance, does it that way. South Central Connecticut does it that way. Anyway, so we're going to discuss those on Wednesday, and I was just hoping if we get any feedback today, if there's a sense of what direction to go in, then just to remind you the process for amending the bylaws, we need 2 meetings. So the special meeting next week, we can discuss, we can amend and adopt a final set of rules. That would be adopted per the current bylaws as the preliminary bylaw adoption. And then the following meeting in December, we would be able to finally adopt bylaws. That's what's required. If we don't do a preliminary adoption next week, it'll just take another month to do. So it would be December and January. Before I do have something to talk about the executive board agenda, but if there's anything else on bylaws, I'm happy to answer it or take any feedback now, Mr. Chairman.
Or any questions for Rick on bylaws, Mayor Chatfield?
Just as long as when everything is said and done, the brothers and sisters from the 4 lower valley towns will be able to be chair of this organization.
That's his. Here.
You know, I would add to that, I mean, we've existed for how many years now where someone from the valley is the vice chair? What's the difference? You know, where is the distinction? Where is the line in the sand and why? So.
It's definitely gonna need to be discussed.
All right, so we're gonna take this up at the executive board meeting, Rick?
No, special meeting of the full board on Wednesday morning.
Okay.
Okay.
You all should have already gotten an agenda and notice for this.
But it's gonna be discussed in the executive committee meeting as well.
No. The executive board has a different agenda. The executive board has no need to discuss this. If you discuss and adopt a preliminary, then we can move forward. If you discuss and don't adopt a preliminary, then we won't move forward with the first vote until December.
Yeah, I don't understand why we can't have more discussions in the executive committee. That's what the executive committee's for.
Well, if we want to.
Well, it's after. The executive committee follows the full board meeting.
All right. Rick, at the end of the day, is your recommendation gonna be acceptable to the 4 lower towns?
Well, I think where we're headed is just we'll keep the draft and we'll elect 2 separate boards and hold 2 meetings, one after the other. That's the cleanest way to do it. Obviously there's no appetite for adopting a proposal to prohibit anyone from holding an office. So it leaves us really with 2 options: elect 2 boards, hold 2 meetings. Like I said, it'll be relatively seamless, or just direct us to redraft it as a single board, include MPO bylaw rules, because we have no rules for operating the MPO in our we haven't had them since we merged, and then address it if the issue comes up in the future where someone's elected. Let the then board address it with the Federal Highway Administration when the time comes.
Well, I mean, hasn't it been pretty clean for the last 8 years? When you say it's the cleanest way to do things, hasn't it been pretty clean and pretty clear?
Well, we haven't had a situation where the chair has been from one of the 4 towns.
Well, when the chair is absent, the vice chair takes over. So conceptually, yes, it has. Officially entitled, no, but what's the difference?
Well, the difference is we're trying to adopt rules for the MPO which don't exist, and now that we're certified as a TMA and we have to go through certification review, periodically, we're gonna get much closer scrutiny from the federal government on this. And the makeup of the policy board, the composition of it, based on who the members are, what level of transportation providers are included. There's some additional criteria for how we run our meetings. We just want to make sure we're in compliance when that comes
You
up.
haven't told us that yet, and then nobody has shown us where there's a prohibition. So, you know, I don't know.
That's correct.
We're kind of talking in circles right now.
I'm just trying to give you a heads up for what we're going to discuss next week. That's all.
I think this is needlessly complicated. You know, I think we're what, 19 towns, and we should all be equals in all respects, and I have no horse in the race because, you know, I guess my town is part of the majority, but you know, if were I to live in one of the other towns, I would find this quite insulting. And that they wouldn't be considered.
That's correct.
You know, and you know, I agree with Mayor Chatfield that we should if we have to amend the bylaws, let's do it. But let's all be equal here.
Right.
Let me please let me just be clear about this. You cannot be equal on the MPO. They're not members of the MPO. You'll surely understand they're two legally separate organizations. The MPO and the COG are legally separate.
At that point, I think everybody gets that.
The 15-member towns can't be.
We want equality, we want it to be legal, and we want it to be simple.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And essentially, this is all being driven by the federal government, correct? Am I correct with that?
No. It's not being driven by them. We never adopted MPO bylaws in anticipation that we would end up with a merger that resulted in coterminous boundaries. That has not happened.
No, and it's not about it.
Right. So now we're dealing with it. No one's causing anything. We've just been avoiding the issue for 10 years.
Well, we're gonna move on. Rick, is there anything else in your report?
Yes, executive board meeting. So I just want to give you an update for the executive board. We'll be discussing upcoming legislative agenda. We'll have a budget discussion, a look forward on the budget. We'll talk about staffing plan, and we'll talk about we may have to schedule an executive session for the executive committee meeting to discuss some 2026 building lease options, and then I was notified this morning about a tax foreclosure that we are defending in that I need to discuss with the board. So that'll all be on the agenda. And if I could, Mr. Chairman, I would just like to recognize two staff members who will be leaving us and after this meeting, before next meeting. Karen Stetz, our senior regional transportation engineer, will be leaving the COG for greener pastures. And we want to thank her for her service. She's been instrumental in running our LOTSIP program and keeping an eye on all the state programs that are run in your town, the state projects that are run in your town. She's been a tremendous asset. She's going to be difficult to replace. As well as someone who's been with us a shorter period of time, but Phoebe Plouffe, who has been our housing planner in community planning, will also be departing before the next meeting. So I just wanted to recognize the two of them and let the board know that we would be pursuing replacements for those positions as well as the other vacancies that we currently have.
Okay, any questions for Rick? All right, transportation planning, item 1, LOTSIP financial plan update, Rich Donovan.
Yes, thank you. So we haven't spoken about LOTSIP in a while. I wanted to share an update as well as begin a conversation about some of the next steps with the LOTSIP program. As you all know, we've been aggressively trying to utilize the LOTSIP program. We found out this morning an authorization to award came through that will get us to just about $90 million total given to towns for projects across the region. And so good or bad, we are about to be the first region to have fully obligated and fully spent all of the lots of money allocated to us. And so if you'll go forward one slide. Here is our current projections for allocations versus available funds. We did meet with the department last week, this week, in the last several weeks, to discuss our financial position. They do an annual meeting, and so we know that there's a few changes to this that are coming, including hopefully, if the department's request gets approved, a slight increase to the annual allocation for the region. And so what you'll see here is that we are about to, and this is not the first time we've projected it, and we anticipate this will change over time as projects get delayed or revised, but we are about to have fully expended the funds available to the region. It's a really significant milestone. One of the challenges CONDOT has faced with this program is, despite its popularity and its importance to all of you as municipal leaders and the work that it can do for your towns, they have had a hard time requesting that the program be further supported by the state legislature because of the available funds that have yet to be spent. And so across the board, the other COGs have started more aggressively allocating their funds. We had been the example for that from the beginning. We continue to lead the way in that we will be the first to have actually spent the money. And so when that comes, we are also going to be the first to figure out what that looks like in terms of how we handle projects as they come in, and making sure that the funds continue to move and projects move as quickly as possible. And so included in the agenda packets is a memo, as well as a draft update to the region's lots of guidelines that includes a process that the TTAC met several times to put together and recommend. And that process would address what happens if 2 or more projects are completed and designed and ready to go at the same time, and the funds are not available to do all of them at once.
Okay, let me stop you there, because this is a pertinent point, I think. You know, there's some people who are in that position. The biggest problem is getting through DOT.
Mhm.
What's the plan to deal with DOT, if you can?
Yeah. And so there's a couple pieces there. The first is DOT has improved the process to a degree. With the leadership change of the local roads unit and Mike Cherpak leading that unit, Vitaly taking over as the chief engineer for lots of, they have made improvements to the process through the comments and application review. We have also been taking a more aggressive stance, and to Rick's point, we really owe Karen a lot for this. In pushing those and staying on top of them to get these applications done. They've been a lot more receptive to the to the proposals that are coming from all of you. One of the challenges we are still facing is the encroachment permit review process. If you have projects that touch state roads, we know that is an issue for across the board, not just lots of projects. And so Mike and Vitaly are looking at ways to address that particular concern as well. The districts right now do that review, and they're certainly behind on.
Right now, I'm in that category, and we're approaching the 2-year mark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, and it's a well-known issue that is on the commissioner's desk as well. And so it's not being ignored. I may not have a great answer at the moment for what that fix will look like, but it's something the department is working on.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but
No, of course.
it needs to be said.
Yeah,
And it needs to be said over and over again, because it becomes problematic when your road is built, but you can't use it because the state owns a half an acre of land that adjoins the state road and your road.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
No, very much agreed. The encroachment permit process is one of the biggest challenges that remains right now between the municipalities and the department. And so there's something at least that the commissioner's office and the department are looking at, and we will continue to push back on as we can, because we know it's a pain point for everyone.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman?
Rick?
Yes, if I may. So Rich, Merrill already, just and for everyone else's benefit, there are 2 different issues here. One is the encroachment process, which Rich is talking about, which is getting a permit for a curb cut or to cut into the road. Shelton's situation is slightly more complicated, although it shouldn't be. Shelton needs to acquire land from the state between the existing state facility and the road built with lots of money, and it's going through that crazy state process of having to be referred out to other agencies before they can transfer the property to a municipality. So that's what Mayor Loretti is stuck in right now, and I agree it's been taking far too long. But it's different than the encroachment permit process.
And so just to finalize the conversation here regarding LOTSIP, so TTAC has set up a policy that they believe fairly will allow projects to move forward in the quickest manner possible. When we get to a point where there's not money within a given year to build all of the projects that are fully designed. We do, as much as possible, intend to still move projects as soon as design is complete. And so we are not encouraging anyone to stop design or slow down their process. We are also not encouraging anyone to stop submitting new LOTSIP projects. The further over programmed we are, the more likely it is the department can make a meaningful argument for additional funds for the program.
So, but I want to stress that, say it again. That's the part I like best.
Yeah, the more we have, the more we can demonstrate the need for this program through being over programmed as a region and hopefully across the state, the more ability the department has to go to the legislature and display the value of the program to all of you and request additional funds to move these projects forward faster.
But for the life of me, I can't understand why the other regions don't want to use LOTSIP.
We are in the same boat there.
Okay.
We're very confused by that. And they've made progress. So we learned earlier this week that of the 780 million or so that has been allocated to the program since its inception in 2013, now 750 million has been allocated to individual projects. Only 300 million has been spent, so there's still a long way to go, but the other regions are finally catching up on the allocation piece of it. So we're not asking for an action today. We did include that draft LOTSIP guideline change. And so we would like to give you all a month to review, and at the December meeting, we will ask for any comments and then endorsements if you're willing to do so.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I just need to add two other things to this. One is that the expenditure of funds by other regions, but one of the reasons they haven't been as aggressive as we have, they've done what we said we would not do, which is allocate for like a fair share for each town at the beginning of the project process, and then have certain towns never come in with a project and the money not get spent. So we've avoided it by avoiding that process, which some have adopted. The second thing is, the last thing I just want to talk about on LOTSIP, a number of our towns will be sending out a list again to your town finance officers as well as to the CEOs and town engineers. We do have some towns that are holding money, their projects are closed, and there's about $5 million that could come back to NVCOG to be allocated to new projects. Because as you know, the state cuts the check up front, and if you don't spend all that, which most don't, then that money goes back in the pool to be reallocated. So we have about $5 million floating out there on completed projects. The state does not currently have a plan to audit them, but I'm sure your finance directors don't want to continue to carry them as deferred revenue and would like to send that money back. So to the extent they need assistance with that, they should reach out to Rich, and Mike's team will provide assistance if your towns need it, but we really need to get that money back so we can reallocate it.
So just a comment, Rick, I guess I want to see if I'm right, but to me, the issue with the smaller towns is that they have to pay quite a bit of money to engineer a project before they can even advance. And that some towns, like Naugatuck is able to do that, Waterbury is able to do that, sure, Bristol, Shelton. Some of our smaller towns have much more difficulty, and to me, that's the real equitable issue, is that requirement. So I'm just throwing it out there as for something for everyone to think about, for the towns that don't have $500,000 or $600,000 to design a project.
I if I could, Mr. Chairman, I would just relay back to you. We did discuss this with the department at length when the program was adopted. The purpose, one of the tenets of the program is to not include design in the program cost, because then you would be subject to the state and potentially federal rules on procurement of your design engineers. Right now, you can design it in-house, you can pick your on-call engineer, you can use whatever process you want. The state is agnostic on the process used by the town to select the designer. If it's their money, you're going to become immediately subject to all of those rules of the state of Connecticut in awarding architectural and engineering contracts.
All right,
And through the chair, I'll add that those smaller towns, because they probably aren't hitting their fair share, when we start to run out of money, we'll get that money first over the larger towns. Is that correct? So that makes it, evens the playing field a little bit.
We have been pretty well distributed as well in funds. Almost every town in the region has now received lots of funds for at least a project.
okay, it's sort of a double-edged sword. We keep going and they have to, we have to get more and more involved.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
thank
right,
you.
so let's go to item 2, Title VI Plan Update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this item requires no action, just an update. NVCOG is beginning the process of updating our Title VI non-discrimination plan. That update is a federal requirement to ensure that NVCOG, but specifically the MPO, is compliant with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, and national origin. Simultaneously, we'll also be updating our public participation plan and our equity plan to ensure that all of our programs, services, and investments are fair, inclusive, and accessible for all our communities. So timeline-wise, over the next couple of months, staff will be updating these and drafting these plans with input from stakeholders, community members, and the board, of course. Once we have those drafts, we'll present them to the board and make them available to the public for comment period. And then we aim to bring the final drafts or the final reports back to the board for the March meeting. So stay tuned. We'll probably be reaching out to you, asking for spaces to hold public meetings and to get those inputs, and I'll take any questions.
All right, any questions? All right, community planning, Savannah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to apologize for the typo in your agenda packets. It's my fault. But today I'm just making an announcement and no action is needed. We're providing the final announcement about the 8:30G webinar that we held on October 22nd. It was very well attended. We had over 50 people there, including land use staff, commissioners, and attorneys. Overall, we heard from all of those groups that this was a really valuable event and a great educational experience for them. If you would like to watch the video or share it with your staff, the QR code brings you to the recording that we have. However, I will announce that we're going to be sharing this in our community planning newsletter, which is intended to go out next week, that you and your staff receive. So you'll also have it that way. I can take any questions on this.
All right. Thank you. NVCOG Utility Assistance Resource Guide, BB.
So I'd just like to let you all know about a regional resource that we recently made available. The Utility Assistance Resource Guide for Residents provides detailed information about federal, state, local, and utility provider-based utility assistance programs. With winter coming up, there are many households in the region who may need assistance paying their utility bills, especially as winds are turning heat on. The guide provides basic information about available programs and eligibility criteria for each of them. Detailed contact information for local community action agencies and program administrators is also provided to help interested households better understand, locate, and apply for applicable utility assistance programs. The Utility Assistance Resource Guide is currently available on the NVCOG website and can be accessed by the QR code on the screen. Additionally, it will go out in the community planning newsletter next week. The guide will be promoted on NVCOG socials and emailed to your offices for awareness and local distribution. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions? Okay, thank you, Phoebe. Environmental Planning Brownsfield Update, Ricardo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So all of our brownfield projects are moving forward swiftly. Bid closing for remedial contractors closed yesterday for 300 Broad Street.
we should know within the next week or so, who they select. And, give it like a month while the contract is, reviewed, and, they should start work on that work. So abatement work and, remediation work. Very simultaneously on that project. In Waterbury, the Freight Street projects, as well as the 698 South Main Street projects are, having the quality assurance project plan reviewed by EPA. They should be, giving us the authorization to commence that work within the next week or so. And, once they do so, we could, start the limited site characterization over there so they can continue the remedial design, on that site. In Derby, phase 3 work is anticipated to commence within the next, upcoming weeks at 2 Factory Street. So, that work will be starting soon. Friendly reminder, the annual RVP meeting will be held December 12th, 2024 at 2 p.m. at Bad Sons. If you haven't done so, please RSVP. Our comms team will be sharing another reminder. The link will be right there. So please ask your RVP representatives to RSVP ASAP so we could get a head count for the event. Next slide. And funding opportunities. So there's money out there. Community Investment Fund Round 6 deadline is December 13th at 12 p.m. Friendly reminder, just make sure you secure a SharePoint folder from the ECD by December 5th, 5 p.m. To be eligible to submit your application. Eligible municipalities are Ansonia, Beacon Falls, Bristol, Derby, Naugatuck, Seymour, Thomason, and Waterbury. So they really don't mention this, but typical request ranges from $250,000 all the way up to $20 million. So if you have a project and need some funding, that might be a good source for you guys to tap into. DECD Brownfield program round 21. They haven't released it, but it's noted on their website. Funding rounds open late January, early February 2025. If you have a project that needs assessment or cleanup funding, reach out to staff so we can start coming up with strategic planning. Assessment, it's a no min, but there's a max of $200,000 and cleanup will max up $4 million. So let us know how we can assist. And lastly, DEEP CERCLA 128A funding. So DEEP is looking for projects that they could assist in. And basically the criteria or restriction is that they must create, preserve, or add green space, greenways, or other recreational space. The deadline for this one is coming up November 22nd at noon, and the max award is $250,000. So this is for assessment or cleanup of green space. Happy to take any questions.
Questions?
Just a comment, just so you know, Plymouth is also eligible for Community Investment Fund. No problem.
All right, Kinneytown Dam, Aaron.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I gave a sort of comprehensive update last month, so it's a little quicker. We held our second public meeting for the project on October 30th in Seymour. We had over 40 residents in attendance in person and online. And we'll be continuing regular meetings every other month. We had some tough questions and a lot of interest, but overall in the room, some pretty good support for the project. And we'll be holding the next meeting in January. We met with EPA and DEEP staff to discuss the results of the phase 2 environmental assessment that was conducted by EPA over the summer. Reviewed results, and we will be collectively developing plans for the next round of testing that will inform the sediment management plan that will be required for the dam removal project. We're in negotiations with our top qualified engineering firm over scope and fee for the dam removal design and engineering. And we hope to reach an agreement and have them under contract by the end of the year. And finally, we've concluded the due diligence for the acquisition of the facility by the Connecticut Brownfield Land Bank. We'll be meeting with the Land Bank Board next week to discuss, and we expect that they will be moving ahead with acquisition by December 16th, provided that the seller is prepared for that closing. I'm happy to take any questions.
Is the seller going to be prepared?
We don't know. We will see. There's outstanding taxes in both towns that the facility is located in, and we've let them know that those taxes have to be settled before we close, and I think that's going to be the one hurdle that we're gonna probably have to. Yes.
Aaron, it's a question that's come up many times. What happens to the liability of the property owner? Are they responsible to put the bill here somewhere on remediation, or just pay their taxes to the municipality and then we just scoot on?
I think unfortunately, it's really not even the current owner. The current owner is sort of just holding the property as sort of single entity, single purpose entity. They really don't have any funding at all to pay anything. So I think it's unfortunate. I think, the several companies that operated this facility in the past that sort of ran it into the ground, they've sort of been taken out of that chain of liability through purchases. So it is sad.
It's the same reason there's so many blighted industrial sites across the northeast part of the country. Because property owners just walk away because they can't. So it's the same category as far as I'm concerned.
So basically, forget it. They just scoop and that's the end of it. Is the bottom line. Yeah. We were blessed that they didn't walk away. So anyway.
All right, questions for Aaron? All right, let's move to acceptance of 319 grant for the Mad River watershed based plan. Christine.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So NVCOG received a grant from Connecticut Deep through Section 319 of the Clean Water Act. The grant will fund the creation of a Mad River watershed-based plan that aims to identify sources of water quality issues and develop implementation steps to improve and maintain the health of the Mad River. The watershed falls within Bristol, Woolgate, and Waterbury, and there should be a map in your packet. Those three communities gave approval to NVCOG to apply for this grant and committed to continue. NVCOG plans to hire a consultant to conduct that water quality sampling and write the plan, guided by a steering committee that includes municipal staff and local stakeholders. In order to accept this grant, NVCOG must provide an authorized resolution. Therefore, we respectfully ask the board to approve resolution 2025-02 today. Thank you so much, and I'm happy to answer questions.
So move, Prosper.
Second, Thomaston.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Municipal Services, Drew.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be very brief. As you know, based on the shared service survey that you all participated in, or most of you participated in, one of the key issues that came out of that was animal control. So I'm currently working with quite a few of you on potential shared facilities, shared ACOs. I included in your packets attachment X-1, which is Public Act 23-138, which kind of lays out some of the new kind of onerous requirements for a municipal animal control facility. So some of you have been proactive about this and already moving forward, but I wanted the rest of you to know that there are requirements coming down the pipe that your facilities may not be in compliance. So if we could address that unfunded mandate with some regionalization of your services or your facilities, I'll be happy to help you tackle that RPIP application to do that and get the state to put some of the bill for them. So working on that actively with quite a few of you already. I'll just touch on August 18th and flood and emergency management update, and I'll let you know, Mr. Chairman, that John Field is online as well. If you want to jump in, but I will say, luckily, we did qualify for the public assistance from the federal government, as I'm sure those of you who are still neck deep in all the flood issues are well aware of. We have had direct contact with Dana Conover, who is the state representative from FEMA, who's handling the public assistance. He's been great and very helpful on some public infrastructure issues within the region. But one other note is that the individual assistance for your residents and businesses will be ending on August 19th. So if you know of anybody who's for some reason not filed their paperwork yet with FEMA, you're really under the gun now at this point with 4 days left. And one final note from me on emergency management is that on Monday, there are two separate meetings for Region 5 emergency management directors, their annual meetings. One will be held at the Watertown Fire Department, and the other one is going to be held in Litchfield. John Field sent out an email about that earlier this morning, so for your EMDs to attend. But I don't know if John has anything else to contribute, through you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, John, would you like to address us?
Thank you, sir, and pleasure to see everyone as usual. But you know what? I think Drew handled it quite well. So the real important thing is the individual assistance and public assistance for the August 18th, 19th floods. We are able to acquire the presidential disaster declaration, and those application periods are open. So please make sure if your municipality or any residents suffered damage that they sign up to get some assistance. So that's the most important thing right now. So that's all I have, sir. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, John. All right, we will move to GIS. Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm talking to you today about a grant from OPM. They will be sending funding to COGS to help update and standardize municipal GIS parcels and CAMA data. NVCOG will receive roughly $230,000 as part of the total statewide funding of just over $2 million with no match required. This initiative aims to enhance data accuracy and alignment across municipalities. The funding will be distributed according to OPM's three-tier prioritization system, which considers data recency, CAMA the parcel match rate, data completeness, and parcel quality. NVCOG staff will coordinate with current CAMA and GIS vendors and municipal employees to complete the work. The resolution is so NVCOG can receive the first half of the funding in winter 2025, with the rest of the funding being released in the spring. Thank you, and I'll take any questions.
All right, any questions? We have a motion?
So moved, Plymouth.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Roundtable. Is there anyone who would like to bring up a topic prior to going to item 13? Hearing none?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.